to the next show. My name is Hoffmann. I'm with Accenture Song, the world's largest tech-powered creative group. I'm responsible for our energy business, in particular about digital transformation when it comes to customer business in marketing, sales, service. I'm super happy because I'm here today with Arash Aazami. Arash Aazami is an entrepreneur, an architect for energy systems, and also a fantastic keynote speaker. We heard you this morning talking about energy Buddhism. And Arash, I'm so happy to be with you here and to have the opportunity to ask you a few questions. But it would be great if you could introduce yourself and say a little bit more about how come that you came into the energy business.
Yes, well, thank you so much for having me here, and I am really excited, and I really love the setup with all the amplifiers and the guitars because my background is in music. And so I started to play guitar, and I discovered during my adolescence actually that through making music I could more easily communicate with the people, and for me it really became this channel. And then I studied music, and then I became a professional musician, and I played and toured for a while. And sometimes I get the question, so how does a musician end up doing things with energy? And if you think of it, music has to do everything with frequency, with vibration, and with transferring waves from one place to another, or from one heart to another, or from one instrument to an ear. And with energy, we're doing the exact same thing. It is all about frequency and vibration and transferring energies, transferring waves. And even if you look at it on a very technical level, even the 50 hertz mains hum that we have consists of the bass tone, the ground tone, and 120 stacked overtones. And by listening to them very well, we know if the energy system is in balance or not. So it's pretty much the same thing.
So suddenly it appears very natural that you stepped from music into energy. So how did your career start in energy?
Well, it didn't start in energy. So I was doing music, and I was on tour in the US and ended up in Silicon Valley. And that was at the time that the internet companies were booming there in the late 90s. And I was blown away by that energy that I felt there. And then I came back to the Netherlands and I founded an online startup. And we just tried stuff for some years, just trying stuff, innovate, just see what comes out of it. And I did that with two amazing, very creative co-founders who are still active and still work together. And we're actually still even in the same building. And we're talking about something that started, 27 years ago? So it's been quite a while. And I was struggling in this online field also, because on the one hand, I think that, yes, there was a lot of creativity, but it was also, when we started, it really was led by a sense of purpose. And in the end, I would just found myself being very busy. But what for? And I ended up in a burnout, a very bad one. Took me a year and a half to recover. And during that year and a half, I discovered that, yes, I do have a talent for being busy, but what am I busy for? What do I put a lot of energy in? And I found out that if I can be of service to something that is larger than myself, then it makes sense. And I also found the importance of energy in our lives, in our businesses, in value creation, in nature, the fundamental character of energy. And I somewhat rolled into the energy sector at that time as a kid that was a little bit not totally digitally illiterate, and there was a lot of need for some digital power in that, during that period. But I rolled into an energy company at that time, and I really started to be more and more convinced of that fundamental character of energy and started to dedicate my working life to it.
And then you left that energy company and you created your own company.
Yes.
A company that earns more the less energy is consumed.
Yes.
So it seems like that would be something that is totally right on time in our days. So how would that function and how was it? I mean, what was the story about this company?
Well, it's a long story, and I'm going to try and make it short and simple. So I was working at an energy company, and basically my task there was to sell as many kilowatt hours and as much natural gas as I could, because as long as you have a P times Q value creation model, you're incentivized to sell as much as you can. And I thought at that time, but it doesn't make sense, because in our marketing efforts, we are telling our customers that they should consume less. But our earning model is based on how much we sell. So somewhere it's going to not work anymore. We're going to hit the wall there. Or we'll have to acknowledge that we're being not honest. So I basically thought, is it possible to invert the business model for an energy company? Earn more as you sell less. And I started calculating new value creation models, writing literally new algorithms for value creation for an energy company. And I found out that, yes, as long as you put the margin on the volume, you're always stuck in a volume-based business. But the moment that you regard energy itself as a service, just like you can see an internet connection as a service, and you ask a flat fee for it, and you don't earn the money on the energy itself, but you start earning the money on increasing the independence of your customer by providing them, for example, with all the means that they need to become more and more independent, then you could earn a lot more money while selling less and less energy. And then I turned that into, it sounds a bit technical, but somewhat a model that is annuitary and kind of looks like how you deal with a mortgage. And I also made the comparison that, if you live in a rental home, which is fine, you have a roof over your head, and in 20 years' time, you'll still be paying rent. But if you buy that home, you pay off your mortgage, in the end, it's going to be your home. You get to do with it what you want to do. And with energy, we only had one option, which is similar to the rental home. You pay your supplier, and in 20 years' time, you're probably still going to pay your supplier. You're not in control. So instead of that, it was about enabling users to become the owners of their own little household energy economy or company energy economy with all the assets involved, and created a business model on that, founded it, saw it grow, went pretty quickly in a few years' time until it was declared illegal by the authorities because it was outside the mandate of what an energy company should be able to do according to the laws at that time. And I eventually got fired of that company in 2014 and then lost my shares, and then the company went bankrupt 2 years after I left. And I do believe that still, it was a very good proof of concept. So the thing that we did was we provided a proof of concept that yes, we can invert the business model of an energy company. And I do think that there's market readiness and institutional readiness for these models now.
Exactly. So you also make proof that you are a thought leader and an entrepreneur, taking the risk to go out of a company to fund your own business. And actually, the business model touched also upon very important aspects that is keeping us busy today about decentralizing energy supply, developing customers into prosumers, making them participating in the energy supply, but then also like the importance of that political and regulatory environment that needs to enable these business models to grow and then also make the Energiewende happen.
Yeah.
So what would you say is currently in our situation with all the challenges that we also see and have in front of us, the most important thing? What do we really need in order to change the energy system into a democratized, participatory model, so that we also have a better future, and the world is also becoming a better place because we are getting away from fossil fuels and all of that?
It's a very good question, and I'm inclined to give a very long answer, but I'm going to keep it very short. I think the key element to this fundamental shift that we are making is for us to really want it. Because the technologies are not the boundary anymore. We have distributed technologies. We have grown from a few places where energy is produced and then distributed to millions of users, to millions of places where energy is produced. And now, in the meantime, we are vastly growing the amount of storage capacity. So in the next 7 years, according to the International Energy Agency, the amount of storage that is installed in the world is growing by 2,250%. The amount of electric vehicles in 7 years grows 1,150%, from 27 million globally last year to 315 million in 2030. So that means that the shift is already happening. And it's not only with electricity, it's happening with other energy carriers also. High density carriers like molecular carriers, look at hydrogen for example, and also heat. And the moment that we start integrating these networks for electricity with distributed generation, for molecules, and for heat, where you can, for example, with your solar panels, use surplus power in the summer to feed a heat sink that you're gonna release the heat from during the winter time, will enable you to no longer have to buy natural gas. The thing is, do we want it? Because our business models rely on islanding. We have to confine energy economies to islands. In Europe, in most countries, there's a separate law for electricity and a separate law for gas and a separate law for heat, for example, which means that the law defines the business model. And if these laws are separate and the business models are separate, we can no longer make use of the potential of integrating these technologies into something that is more than the sum of their parts, to truly seek synergy. And it makes sense that we are keeping these islands because our business models as status quo leaders depend on them. Our earning model, volume-based, still depends on that. Our earning model as a government, with the energy taxes that are being paid, still depends on that. And the moment that we really want it, that is either because we have the intrinsic motivation to do the good thing, or that we end up in a crisis where everything is going to fail, every single system in the country is going to fail, then it will change.
So you mentioned also democratizing, but then also the whole thing about Web3, crypto, blockchain. Everyone can, have a stake in it and create the future system. But there's also the aspect, at least in our region, and we are fortunate to have that, of security of supply.
Yeah.
So this, maybe I should already ask, is it also losing control if you democratize? And would that maybe put our very important security of supply at risk? Or is that, what are your thoughts about this?
I love the question. Yes, because you're mentioning security of supply. And I believe that accepting this new energy reality also has to do with accepting a new narrative. Because as long as we call it security of supply, it implies that there's a supplier that you have to depend on to supply you with the energy that you need. But if we shift from security of supply to security of energy, suddenly you have all these new possibilities that appear. Security of energy is something that I can buy from your company, and then you have to supply. Or I can organize it myself by buying assets that will give me security of energy. Or I can do a combination and hybridize it. So I think that we should shift the narrative to one that is fitting for the new energy reality that we are moving towards. And security of supply should not be part of that narrative anymore, because it implies something hierarchical. And rather than that, if you think of Web3, it's about peer-to-peer. It's about distributedness. It's about interconnectedness. And it's about regarding every node on a network as equal, with equal possibilities to choose whatever role they're going to play on that network. Do you only want to use? Sure, fine. But do you want to use and supply also? Then go ahead. Do you want to produce and use it yourself? Of course, go ahead. Do you want to provide storage facility to somebody else? Why not? Do you want to provide balance to the grid? Why not make that a product in itself, an active product that you can market? Do you want to host a local marketplace with your neighbors or with the companies that surround you? It should be possible, and it is. So technically it is all possible. The thing is, do we want it? And are we going to accept that new narrative and truly accept new ways of creating value with energy? And I think that the transition that we're making here is similar to the one that we made from going from the phone line internet to the peer-to-peer internet, where first you had to pay per minute that you were downloading or uploading, or per kilobyte that you were downloading or uploading. And now you have this 24/7 connection, and it doesn't matter anymore how much volume you're actually sending over it back and forth. And it became a service. Now the value that you're creating with that particular connection is up to you to define. You may use it as a user only, or produce something, or put something on Wikipedia, or make TikTok films, or whatever you want to do. But you are of value, and the system itself is of value to you. And that's the synergy we're seeking. Now, if you're going to be connected to the energy internet in that same way, you can choose whatever role you want to fulfill there and combine in whatever kind of combination you can think of. I cannot think of all these combinations. You know, that is beyond us. That will be up to the user to come up with all these new ideas and business models. But as long as we seek balance, and this is something very important, we need to evaluate energy on the balance that we give on the entire grid, rather than evaluating energy on the discrepancies between supply and demand that we see in the moment, because that's how the market works now. Well, we're going to invert the market to a service-oriented market where it's all about sharing and achieving balance together.
And when we talk about this, I mean, there are these first self-sustaining communities appearing.
Yeah.
They are limited because it can be a certain area of a city or a municipality or something. And I think from what I'm seeing, it's working quite well, but it's also like the proof of concept type of thing. And of course, like the citizens of this area all have to agree. But when we speak about these models that you were just describing, are there limits? I mean, or would you advise to pay attention of, trying it out, for a certain type of area or country or whatever, how, connectivity, or is it open to anyone? It will just pop up where people are driving it, and then it develops like that. I mean, how would you approach that, or how is your view on that?
So if you look at all these local initiatives that we see popping up everywhere now, we have local energy cooperatives. We have the tendency of some people to go completely off-grid. We have regions in the world where there is no grid, so the only option that you have is locally based energy systems. Look at Sub-Saharan Africa, for example. In the Netherlands right now you have energy hubs on the rise, which are basically commercial areas with companies, businesses, small industries that exchange energy amongst each other. And why do they do that? Because there's congestion on the grid. The grids that we have designed are designed for one-way traffic, centralized production, and then distributed to consumers. The new reality is that energy is going two ways. It's bidirectional. So that means that everybody that is connected to the grid and uses that grid to also produce energy and feed it into the grid is creating something that we call congestion. And congestion is right now pretty massive. So that means that in the Netherlands alone, the investments in grid reinforcement in the next years is over 230 billion euros, which amounts to a massive increase of the energy cost for anyone who is connected to the grid. And that is because we are still living in the paradigm that all that energy should travel over the grid and be supplied to you. Even your own energy You send it back on the grid and then it will be sold back to you. Keep it local. So now we have these energy hubs, and I believe that we should experiment with them. Legally, it's difficult still. The European Commission actually has issued a reform for the electricity market last October that they turned from a directive into a regulation. So that means that all the member states need to adjust their laws and regulations based on this and actually enable energy sharing. So that's very good. The movements are definitely there. But if you look at a typical energy hub in the Netherlands, which is now entering into the pilot phase, and there are a few that are active now, and they have to negotiate for about 2.5 years for all the legal matters and all the things that they need from their grid operator or don't need from their grid operator in order to be able to exchange energy among one another. That's crazy. We don't have time for that. Mm-hmm. So we need to standardize, but we can only standardize when we are ready to learn very quickly from all these pilots that we are doing. And I would suggest that anyone who wants to do a pilot, yes, it will hurt, it will cost you a lot of money, but you'll have to do it anyways. Because, well, how'd you put it nicely? The excrement is hitting the ventilator right now. Mm. And, that's the situation that we're in. So we must innovate on a fundamental level and also take into account that it's not about the technological innovation that much anymore. It's about the legal innovation. It's about the economical innovation, so the new valuation of energy, the new valuation of grids and being connected. And it's about the social innovation. How do you deal with your neighbors?
And we spoke about this mindset shift that is also quite an innovation. So I loved the innovation that you displayed this morning about the iceberg in the desert, because I think that's so innovative and so cool actually to show also what is possible now, right? We have everything, as you said, is there. It's now really on us to do it. And then there was also but another talk where I loved the sentence about pessimism is a privilege. So it requires also our not only to do it and to try out, to innovate, but also this mindset of positivity, right? That it's now on us and we have huge opportunities to do.
Yeah.
And in that context, what are you looking forward to?
What I look forward to the most is the point of no return. Because these developments are taking place. We are fundamentally democratizing energy. We are getting to the point where we have to acknowledge the fact that energy is the fundamental currency for all value creation in the world, and that it cannot and will no longer be controlled by entities for the sake of holding power. I'm not in favor of fighting the powers that be. I am in favor of fighting for a literal version of power to the people. And power to the people is made possible now. One point is where we are collectively so aware of the power that we have as individuals that there is no return anymore. That will be the big shift. It won't be easy, but it's like the adoption of some other society-changing innovations. Look at the internet. There's a lot of bad stuff happening on the internet, but it has changed the face of the world. It has changed our position as humans. It has changed the power that we hold literally in our hands, with access to all the knowledge and all the data and also all the nonsense in the world. And it has also given us the responsibility to filter that out and to be wise with all that knowledge. And we are learning to deal with that. And I predict that we are about to do the same thing with energy, which will take away the power of those who are now mongering it and fighting wars over it. And instead of that, having literal power to the people.
It's so good to have you with your courage, with your ideas, and also with your thought leadership.
Thank you.
Also thank you to Next that we have that stage to
what
talk
a platform.
about it.
You
Arash,
guys.
thank you
really.
so much for being here.
Thank you so much. Thanks.